Do not be anxious about anything, but in every situation, by prayer and petition, with thanksgiving, present your requests to God. Philippians chapter 4 verse 6. The rich rule over the poor, and the borrower is slave to the lender. Proverbs chapter 22 verse 7. But seek first his kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be given to you as well. Matthew chapter 6 verse 33. The plans of the diligent lead to profit as surely as haste leads to poverty. Proverbs chapter 21 verse 5. Do not wear yourself out to get rich. Do not trust your own cleverness. Proverbs chapter 23 verse 4. Whoever sows sparingly will also reap sparingly, and whoever sows generously will also reap generously. 2 Corinthians chapter 9 verse 6. Better a little with the fear of the Lord than great wealth with turmoil. Proverbs chapter 15 verse 16. A good person leaves an inheritance for their children's children, but a sinner's wealth is stored up for the righteous. Proverbs chapter 13 verse 22. Do not be overawed when others grow rich, when the splendor of their houses increases, for they will take nothing with them when they die, their splendor will not descend with them. Psalm chapter 49 verses 16 to 17. The blessing of the Lord brings wealth, without painful toil for it. Proverbs chapter 10 verse 22. The wealth of the rich is their fortified city, but poverty is the ruin of the poor. Proverbs chapter 10 verse 15. Whoever oppresses the poor shows contempt for their Maker, but whoever is kind to the needy honors God. Proverbs chapter 14 verse 31. Keep your lives free from the love of money and be content with what you have, because God has said, "Never will I leave you, never will I forsake you." Hebrews chapter 13 verse 5. One who is faithful in a very little is also faithful in much, and one who is dishonest in a very little is also dishonest in much. Luke chapter 16 verse 10. A generous person will prosper, whoever refreshes others will be refreshed. Proverbs chapter 11 verse 25. Honor the Lord with your wealth, with the first fruits of all your crops. Then your barns will be filled to overflowing, and your vats will brim over with new wine. Proverbs chapter 3 verses 9 to 10. The wages of the righteous is life, but the earnings of the wicked are sin and death. Proverbs chapter 10 verse 16. The rich and the poor have this in common: the Lord is the maker of them all. Proverbs chapter 22 verse 2. Give, and it will be given to you. A good measure, pressed down, shaken together and running over, will be poured into your lap. For with the measure you use, it will be measured to you. Luke chapter 6 verse 38. I have been young, and now am old, yet I have not seen the righteous forsaken or their children begging bread. Psalm chapter 37 verse 25. The Lord is my shepherd, I lack nothing. Psalm chapter 23 verse 1. But godliness with contentment is great gain. For we brought nothing into the world, and we can take nothing out of it. But if we have food and clothing, we will be content with that. 1 Timothy chapter 6 verses 6 to 8. A good name is more desirable than great riches, to be esteemed as better than silver or gold. Proverbs chapter 22 verse 1. Those who give to the poor will lack nothing, but those who close their eyes to them receive many curses. Proverbs chapter 28 verse 27. Be sure you know the condition of your flocks, give careful attention to your herds, for riches do not endure forever, and a crown is not secure for all generations. Proverbs chapter 27 verses 23 to 24. The earth is the Lord's, and everything in it, the world, and all who live in it. Psalm chapter 24 verse 1. Do not withhold good from those to whom it is due, when it is in your power to act. Proverbs chapter 3 verse 27. The generous will themselves be blessed, for they share their food with the poor. Proverbs chapter 22 verse 9. Better the little that the righteous have than the wealth of many wicked. Psalm chapter 37 verse 16. A little sleep, a little slumber, a little folding of the hands to rest, and poverty will come on you like a thief and scarcity like an armed man. Proverbs chapter 6 verses 10 to 11. The Lord is a refuge for the oppressed, a stronghold in times of trouble. Psalm chapter 9 verse 9. Dishonest money dwindles away, but whoever gathers money little by little makes it grow. Proverbs chapter 13 verse 11. The Lord upholds all who fall and lifts up all who are bowed down. The eyes of all look to you, and you give them their food at the proper time. You open your hand and satisfy the desires of every living thing. Psalm chapter 145 verses 14 to 16. Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and rust destroy, and where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where moth and rust do not destroy, and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. Matthew chapter 6 verses 19 to 21. Better a little with righteousness than much gain with injustice. Proverbs chapter 16 verse 8. Amen.